So hello, this is going to be something a little bit different. It's just something I thought I would do because I was bored, and it's a good way to fill time in between me making all the stuff for Season 3. This is the official ConnelTEW TEW 288 Challenge on pay-per-view tier list that I've made. As you can see, you've got all the posters down here, and basically I've got the match cards and everything I had for the show, because I can't remember what matches happened, but once I see the match card, I'll know exactly what happened on them, so it's fine. I don't need to check and rewatch them all. But it's gonna be based on how I personally feel like they turned out, not how the game said they turned out. Because the game I've hated a show that I thought was really good, and the game I've really liked a show I thought was eh. But it could be basically based on how they told a story, what I think the outcome of these pay-per-views was throughout the year, and where I can improve next time. And obviously, we're gonna start with, in chronological order, Backlash, which was the first pay-per-view of the entire series, episode 9. And right away, I think could have been better, because I feel like it was more so me having to wrap up IRL feuds. Like the first month or two of any save is going to be like the most time, because you've got to wrap everything up that the real WWE is doing. I hate when people do like a complete reset. Like, I could have easily done the complete reset and just ignored what was going on, but that just really annoys me when people do that. So, so here's the cards. We've got Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Drew beat him, obviously. Nothing really happened there. Brock Lesnar came out afterwards to stare down Drew McIntyre. Andrade beat Rey Mysterio for the US title. Street Profits beat Ricochet and Cedric. Liv Morgan and Shayna was the final for the Raw Women's title, and Shayna won that. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross lost to the Kabuki Warriors. Aleister Black lost to Apollo Crews, because that was when VIP Nation first formed. Apollo turned and went with MVP and Lashley. Garza versus Theory. I think Theory won that because that was when Ruby Riott joined the church and Seth Rollins came out. Yeah, that was like some sort of double turn. But Garza wasn't officially turned then, because he turned a little bit later on in a pay-per-view that I do rate much higher than this one. Kevin Owens versus Murphy was the definition of filler. And then the Aussie Mike debut on the pre-show was fine against Vikings and Humberto. Yeah, overall, I don't think there's actually going to be any pay-per-view that I think was the complete drizzling shits, apart from maybe one. But yeah, that one was obviously... Backlash of this year is going to be a lot different, because it's a whole year's worth of stories that I've built up, instead of like having to work with what the real WWE had given me. So hopefully Backlash 2021 will be in the best or great or even decent, but could be better. Backlash, for me, feel exactly the same way about Payback. If anything, Payback might even go not a fan. Because I feel that the SmackDown side of things I was working with, Roman and Braun was a no contest, which Goldberg came out and broke up, which is an absolutely just wet fart finish to a pay-per-view, and if that was in real life, it would be like thumbs down. We don't like that show. Sami Zayn and Jeff Hardy, I don't even remember them feuding. Miz and Morrison versus New Day, I remember the dance-off with Rob Gronkowski, where he got rolled up, but I can't remember the actual feud. Bayley Carmella, the definition of filler. Just, I had no one heel credible to face Bayley, or babyface, sorry, not heel. So yeah, Ziggler and Sonia versus Mandy and Otis was the natural payoff to that feud. Braun and Gulak versus Nakamura and Cesaro sounds good, but I can't remember why it happened. Dakota and Raquel against Lacey and Tamina was just Dakota and Raquel debuting on the pay-per-view, which was fine for what it was, I guess. Rude and Shorty G I actually did quite like, but it was a nice mid-card match, not really anything special. And then Sheamus versus Elias, which I don't remember the feud for, sounds completely skippable, because it's Elias versus Sheamus as a feud. So I think that might be one of my weaker shows. I say not a fan. I actually do think it was still alright, but for the context of the tier list, I've got to sort of grade them on a curve and put that in the bottom because I want to fill out all the tiers. So think less of the names of the tiers and more just where they've been put. Money in the Bank. McIntyre and Lesnar rematch. Pretty sick. Yeah, just giving Drew that win. The whole Lashley debacle happened on that show, setting up Great Balls of Fire later on. Braun versus Roman versus Goldberg. I know the finish was when Goldberg got Braun up for the jackhammer and Braun fell on him after Roman speared him. Bit silly, but yeah. Men's Money in the Bank. We don't talk about that one. Sasha winning Women's Money in the Bank. I remember going into it, I couldn't decide who I wanted to win because I wanted all 6 to win. But I went with Sasha, which probably was the most boring choice, but it played into the story. Kevin Owens and Andrade. Owens won the title. Was just sort of dallying about with the US title back here. Didn't really have a solid plan for it. Owens won it. It is what it is. Sami Zayn versus Cesaro for the IC title. Cesaro won that. I did really like the whole build up to that triple threat match I did with them 3. That being Cesaro, Shinsuke, and Sami. And that was the start of that there, so that gets a big fat pass from me. Kabuki versus the Iconics, filler, sure. Bayley versus Alexa, filler, sure. Seth Rollins versus Angel Garza, nice showcase for Garza, but just basically a nice win for Seth. Pretty decent match though, decent story. And Ali versus Ziggler, again, real WWE maybe want to pay that off because I kind of had to. I'm not just dropping the hacker out of nowhere. Gonka Mojo versus Miz and Morrison, funny, but insignificant in the long run. So Money in the Bank, I will put as decent. I think it was a pretty solid show, but there were a couple of things on there specifically, not only the winner of the Men's Money in the Bank, but some other things on there that I feel like I would do differently if I was to do it again. Vengeance 2020. This is the start of where it sort of becomes my own. Drew and Andrade. I really liked this whole feud between Drew and Zelina and Andrade and Garza and all them. And that's why I put it in for Feud of the Year because I really liked it. So that gets a big pass from me. Owens and Bronson Reed was a fine mid-card, just defense for Kev to get. They broke the US title, brought in the new one. That was fun. And yeah, just putting a spotlight on somebody new. That's also fine for me. Same with the tag title match, Street Profits versus Aussie Might. Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne. Pretty sure that was there when they won it for the first time, not the second time. Yeah. And Kabuki versus Sugar Rush. A filler, really. Seth versus Aleister Black was pretty cool. Damian Priest debuted on there, which was one of my favourite debuts of the series. Jinder and Joe was a fun story, and Bobby Lashley and Ricochet was that one where all the Hurt Business had impromptu matches, and then Lesnar came out, and I quite liked that. That was quite a fun thing. And then Rey Mysterio versus someone else on the kickoff, which happened. This was actually the night before Money in the Bank changed hands to Murphy, so that's fun to think about. Vengeance, I think, was decent as well. Judgment Day. Braun versus Mustafa Ali. Sure. It made sense to do because Ali with the whole thing with Otis and him helping Otis against Ziggler and all them, and Tucker joining the House. It was a natural feud, I thought. Yeah. Sammy versus... That wasn't Sammy versus Cesaro. That was Shinsuke versus Cesaro, and Sammy was the referee. Yeah. I don't know why it says Sami Zayn. Yeah. That was fun. That story was progressing nicely there. New Day versus Lucha House Party, but that was the one, I believe, where Kalisto filled in because Lindsay got injured. And then they turned heel shortly after, which... Yeah. So... in terms of, story progression for the tag division, pretty decent match to have. Bayley versus Manny didn't happen because Manny got laid out by the House before, so that turned into a Sasha, Bayley, and J-Flow segment, which is always welcome in my books. Roman versus Goldberg, main evented, did better than I thought it would, and it set up The Fiend getting his win back over Goldberg and banishing him from history. And then Roman went on to face Braun again, so yeah, nice selling point for the show, that one. Kabukis versus Dakota and Raquel was the title change, an important moment for me, because it was the first proper... I know I did change it to Kairi and Asuka on Backlash, but that's because I just wanted to have them be the champions. This is the first proper, real defense of those titles, and something I'd worked on trying to make was the women's tag division, so that was a significant moment for that. Bryan and Corbin, I believe that was the match where Bryan got injured, and then we did the whole thing where he got run over by Tucker, and that wouldn't have happened because Bryan's injury there actually really messed up the card for One Night Stand. So, yeah, I don't think of that match too fondly, but it sure did happen, and those two went back to that feud later on. But it was a nice thing that happened there. And Alexa and Sonia was a fun little feud with the fight pit as the end destination. I believe Alexa won that one, and then that sort of advanced the feud a little bit more. And GX versus the Forgotten Sons, which was the Forgotten feud, basically. Decent. I don't mind that one. Great Balls of Fire. I'm going to probably preemptively judge this one. I really like this show. Drew, Andrade, and Garza was the main event with the triple threat. The culmination of the whole Vega Mafia Drew McIntyre feud, which I really liked. And it was the thing with the Escobar turn. Not Escobar turn, I believe the Escobar reveal happened like the Raw before the pay-per-view, and then the Isaiah Scott turn happened on this show to set up Andrade and Garza for SummerSlam. So that was pretty sick. Owens and Oni I liked, because it was Owens helping somebody get the title match. Like, that's what I imagine Kevin Owens as a babyface would do as a mid-card champion. Help people like Oni Lorcan get title shots. And it's just Oni. He kicked ass, and he really ran with that role, and that's always welcome in my book. Ozzy Might, Ricochet, Cedric, and Apollo and Shelton. Just a standard triple threat tag match. VIP Nation won that one, I do believe, yeah. And yeah, not really much more to say about that. That was pretty cool. Charlotte and Shayna was, yeah, just Charlotte and Shayna. The only thing I don't like about that is that it didn't have a clean finish, but I didn't want it to because I didn't want to give that away, because I wanted to have the 6-way at SummerSlam with all the women on this card. So I didn't want to have Charlotte get beat this close to SummerSlam, because I wanted to still have that reason to want to get the title shot. And I didn't want Shayna to drop the title and then, yeah, go on to SummerSlam anyway. So I needed to do something to pick myself out of that corner. That's what I did. Black and Priest was Damian Priest's debut on the main roster. That was what set up Alistair needing to be finished by The Undertaker and then going off to make the purge. So that was like the final straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Liked it. Lesnar and Lashley got it booked on this show because at the time, I didn't feel like it was a top level main event match. Obviously, things have changed since then in real life. But yeah, I did it on this show. And then Samoa Joe got in his face shortly after and set up that SummerSlam match. Lashley went on to fight Kevin Owens. Yeah, Murphy and Gargano for the Church against the Street Profits I liked, because it helped establish that Johnny and Murphy were a tag team for the Church against an actual tag team in the Street Profits. That feud was like, I can't remember what really happened in the feud. I remember the spot with Orton and Seth teaming up against them, and then Montez Ford's RKO got caught, or Frog Splash got into an RKO even, but that was after this, because that was on the pay-per-view where Randy came back. And Asuka and Kairi, just a friendly challenge. Kairi's a bit down on her luck there after losing the tag titles, and Asuka was like, bitch, snap out of this. So they just had a friendly fight on this show, shook each other's hand, had a hug, and the poster, the main selling point was Edge coming back. He came back for a promo, and Seth Rollins interrupted him, and Randy Orton came back, and he was in the Church for like a month as a plot device to set up Edge and Seth at SummerSlam. So that was a big angle. And then Ruby and Liv on the kickoff the start of quite a long feud between those two. But yeah, that was a very good show. I really liked that one. That's why I've put it. I don't think it's quite the best because I'm probably saving that for the fancy shows. But yeah, I quite liked it. One Night Stand, I also liked, but not to the same level that I liked Great Balls of Fire. Roman and Braun, Last Man Standing, always fun. Probably would have been fun because this was Braun had like an extra 4 months worth of life when he won the title before he became just boring again. And yeah, I wanted to keep him the champion since till SummerSlam. If you're gonna give me Braun as the Universal Champion at the start of the save, I'm gonna keep him strong until he drops it, at least. Triple Threat, Cesaro, Sami, and Shinsuke. Really liked that story. It was nicely paid off. And it set up the Sami and Nakamura match at SummerSlam. Yeah, nothing bad to say about that. New Day vs. Death from Above was the first since they turned. I believe that was where they won it, wasn't it? Or did they win it at SummerSlam? Yeah, no, they lost it here. And then they must... Oh, yeah, they attacked them after the match, and the Usos made the save, and that's where the Triple Threat came from. Yeah, well, fair enough. Bayley versus Mackie. I mean, just look at the names involved there. How can that not be awesome? The false finish, the dusty finish, didn't really seem to trick anybody like I thought it would. But I wanted to do one, so that's how I did it. That's what I remember that match for. And Dakota and Raquel screwing Mackie because they interrupted her promo after the match, after the tag title win against Alexa and Nikki, to set up the JFlo and Dakota and Raquel match for SummerSlam. Yeah, I remember that. And that whole feud about Dakota's foot being able to cave in Mackie's head, that was fun times. Gulak and Gable against Miz and Morrison was a byproduct of the Bryan injury. That was supposed to be a fatal 4-way with Bryan, Corbin, Sheamus, and somebody else in it, I can't remember, for a number of contenders match. But it had to be changed on the fly because Bryan got hurt, and that's what it became. Because Gulak was hunting down who injured Daniel Bryan, and he credited Miz and Morrison because they hate him, and it turned out it was Tucker, and that's where SummerSlam came from. Hoss House vs. Otis and Mustafa Ali was filler, but Hoss House were on top of the brand, and they were still feuding with Otis and Ali over the whole Tucker turning thing and the whole hacker thing. And yeah. And then Robert Roode and Jeff Hardy. Can't even remember that feud happening. It was a match I just showed on the kickoff show. So overall, One Night Stand, decent show. SummerSlam Night 1 had the retirement of Rob Gronkowski on the kickoff show. Sad times, I know, but it happened. It had the fight pit match between Sonia and Alexa, which wacky to have someone like Alexa in the fight pit, but it happened, and fun story. Murphy, Gargano, and Akam versus Ray and the Street Profits is the obligatory get everybody on the show Connell 6-man tag team match of the night. But it's the church against their enemies, so yeah. J Flo versus Raquel and Dakota, fine women's tag team title match. Seth versus Edge, very big match I wanted to do at SummerSlam. Ever since Edge came back, I knew that I absolutely needed to see that match. I did it here, and Edge won when Randy Orton turned. He was a worm in the church this whole time. Taker and Alistair in the... Was it the Church-like casket match? Yeah, because the Bonehead match was at Survivor Series. The first match where Taker beat him and then he went off to get buried and vanished in the post-credit scene to go make the purge. Yeah, fun. Cesaro versus Sheamus. A simple story about Sheamus needing to get that IC title. And yeah, he won it. He didn't win it, as Cesaro kept it. And yeah, Sheamus has still got to try and win that Grand Slam. Cruz and Shelton versus Ricochet and Cedric, Aussie Might and POTD, Path of the Dragon. Just a standard throw 4 teams in there and see what fits, see what sticks. Tag team match. I believe this is where Aussie Might won it for the second time to become multi-time tag team champions. Women's tag title match looks like a clusterfuck, but everyone had a reason for being there. I actually quite liked how I built that 6-way, because everyone did have a claim to the title, and Liv Morgan won it, and I didn't want her to pin Shayna for it, so she pinned Ruby. So that's fun. And it also teased Caesar dissension between Kyrie and Asuka, which blew off the night after when EO came up. And then Braun vs. Bryan, main event, Bryan beat the Monster to become the Universal Champion. And of course, fancy editing and R-Truth related 24/7 title shenanigans make this a great for me. Night 2, SummerSlam. Only Lorcan versus Jacob Fatu. The uppercutting Lana feud led to this, and Jacob Fatu beat him. Sami and Shinsuke was a slow built match. I believe Bivens was here as the translator at this point, and Sami was a babyface. He turned babyface after this match. Had such a valiant effort. Even in defeat, he still became a babyface, so it's fine. Ali, Otis, and Gulak versus the Hoss House. Again, like the Church one on night 1, filler, really. It's your standard 3 men that are feuding with the top heel faction in a 6-way match. Andrade versus Garza, I loved that feud, the Vega Mafia implosion. And hell of a match, just having him undercard. Andrade won that, I believe, yeah. Joe and Lesnar, part 2. Samoa Joe came up short there as well. But he went on to do virtually nothing after that. So hopefully season 3 is a bit better for him. But yeah, that was a big match to do. Ribbon versus The Fiend, no contest. One of the only no contests I actually don't mind booking because it brought back John Cena. And he went on to do some fun stuff, so it's fine. Lashley won the US title from Kev in a fine minute 5 match. The only thing I didn't like about that was the story. Really, I realised now looking back that story was very weak. Because it was basically calling Lashley a loser and getting a US title match. And I wouldn't book it like that if I was to book it again. I would make up a better excuse as to why Lashley can move straight to a US title match despite losing to Brock. But he became the champion, so it's fine. Death from Above won the tag titles. Actually, I don't believe... I could have sworn they were already the champions. Because I thought Lindsay got injured in this match. But I don't believe they won them on the same night. They had to vacate them. Actually, I'm going to go check right now. I have the game open. Yeah, he won him at... They did win him at One Night Stand. So I don't know why I've still got New Day's the Champions on here. Oh well, yeah. Fun match. Triple threat, ladders. Hell of an opener for that card. Drew and AJ, fine. Main event, just didn't really have much heat behind it. It's just 2 big names going at it. Paige and Bailey. Cool story of Paige coming back because they were really feeding with Paige for the first 4 months instead of like actual other women. Especially when Mandy came in and Mandy was the whole Paige thing, and then Maki was the Paige replacement. And then there was actually Bailey and Paige. Paige ended the reign and was immediately cashed in on by Sasha. Yeah, fun show for me. And then, of course, how could I forget the swimming pool battle royal for the 24/7 title that R-Truth set up. Better than night 1 for me, and that one is one of my faves. The best, of course, the intro video and all the admin side of it make it the best as well. Speaking of really good shows that I liked, Unforgiven. Miz and Morrison versus Ricochet and Cedric. Build, but it was a kickoff match. It doesn't really matter. Priest and Randy was Randy's first stepping stone of getting over all the Church. And yeah, just a fun little match to have on your show, really. Owens versus Elias really just served as a backdrop to debut the Purge. That's all. Kev got the win, and then the Purge came out and attacked him, so that would overshadow the Owens and Elias match. So that's the only reason why that existed. The Seth versus Edge cage match was really fun. I was actually tempted to main event with that, but then I realised the story after the main event was probably better to main event with, so I didn't. Dakota and Raquel versus the 2 J-Flow teams against the Robert Stone brand. Yeah, the story was just basically they had 2 women in Robert Stone brand, and they tried to even the numbers with J-Flow, and they all ended up getting a title shot. Quite fun. Dakota and Raquel retain. It got nice pay-per-view spots for people that wouldn't normally be on pay-per-view. Liv versus Ruby versus Candice. Again, still feuding with Ruby, but Candice was in there because she was also in the Church. This is where I started to actually book Candice because I had the whole SummerSlam, all path to SummerSlam planned out without her in the Church because it was originally supposed to be Austin Theory instead of Johnny Gargano. Took Theory out for Gargano, and then Candice came with, so she was just sort of playing fiddle until after SummerSlam. Like, biding her time. Just twiddling her thumbs. But then she got a title match here. This was the first time I was really booking Candice as a member of the group, and it served as a backdrop to get to Ruby and Liv at Evolution. New Day beat Aussie Might, ending their second tag title reign, and yeah, giving them their 9th, which would be a pivotal plot point later on. So it's a nice match that had to happen. I actually haven't changed this because this match never happened. This was originally supposed to be what I was booking, but it was just Cesaro and Gargano. Cesaro lost it to Johnny Gargano here via AOP shenanigans, and he became the IC champion, which I think was he became the greatest, one of the greatest IC champs of the save. I think, across both reigns, obviously, because he did drop it for like a month. But we'll get to that in a minute. And then Murphy and Drew. This was the only PPV defense for Murphy. He cashed in after SummerSlam, and then he defended against Drew McIntyre here. And then there was a lot of Seth Rollins related shenanigans where he berated him and took in the celebrations for him. And that was a solemn end to what I thought overall was a great show. No Mercy. Okay show, really. Actually, no, I'm probably being a bit too harsh on it. It was a pretty good. Sammy and Lashley, nice. This opponent for Bobby Lashley to beat. It's his first challenger, somebody the fans loved because he just turned babyface. So, yeah, he actually beat Nakamura on the SmackDown after SummerSlam to get the shot, so he got his win back there. I don't think that's when Shinsuke quit. I think he quit, like, after someone beat him in a SummerSlam. Not SummerSlam, Survivor Series qualifier. Bryan and Corbin was to go back to the feud where Corbin injured Bryan, and now he's the champion. He wants to get the revenge. Corbin, of course, won it because Tucker screwed Bryan, and he became Corbin's knight. I can't remember where the Gable turn happened. I think it came after this. Yeah, it did. Ziggler and Rude versus the Usos was the tournament final for the vacant Raw or SmackDown tag team titles. Usos won them. Yeah, didn't really have much else to do because Lindsay got injured and had to vacate them. Sasha Bayley, Paige, and Shayna was one of my favourite matches in the whole thing. Got big time women's main event feel to it. Everyone had a rematch clause basically, and we had the big Bayley turn in Boston on Sasha after the match, which he heated them up for Evolution, but things changed after that night. But we'll get to that in a minute. I've got J-Flow booked in as the champions here because fucking hell, I haven't updated this at all. I hope this is the right cut. These are the right cards. Yeah, I don't remember changing anything else. I think these are all the same. But yeah, that wasn't J-Flow's diamonds. That was Dakota and Raquel. Because I believe I did say that they originally supposed to win them at SummerSlam. Then got cold feet and changed my mind. So that was Dakota and Raquel against Alexa and Nia, Sugar Rush, and the Iconics. Yeah. And then Alexa and Nia, they lost, and then Nikki and Ember. No, Nikki Cross came out and brought Ember Moon back from injury to set up that match for Evolution. Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns was man versus man. Roman got his pinfall win over Bray there to set up the Inferno match, the Super Showdown. Yeah, just a stepping stone in the feud, really. Keith Lee and Braun was Keith's big debut, and he beat Braun. Welcome on any show. And yeah, basking in his glory and all that. And Keith went on to do big things. Brock Lesnar came out and was like, no, Paul Heyman came out and said Brock Lesnar wanted to face the winner of that match at the pay-per-view. And that's probably got to Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar with the Thingy-My-Bobby show. Super Showdown. Then AJ and Garza. Garza beat AJ, just a nice win for him on pay-per-view against an established top guy. Because I know I was heating him up for a title shot on the next show. And Fatu and Luchasaurus was two big Hoss fights. Or two big Hosses fighting on the kickoff. I'm torn as to which group to put this in. Oh, yeah, it was a great show. Yeah, sure. I think there's a lot of good on there, to be fair. So, yeah, I'll put it in great. Super Showdown. Despite what the game told me, I thought this was a pretty fine show. Seth vs. Otis was just to give Otis his rematch and wrap up that storyline. Corbin and Garza. Just a defense for Corbin against somebody. I don't want him to beat anyone too established. And because all the good people were in the World Cup, I think Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Nakamura, and somebody else from SmackDown were in that World Cup. I think Gargano vs. Rated RKO was the real selling point of the show. Rated RKO reunion. Really fun for me, personally, growing up in that era to do that. And was the first big pay-per-view main event spotlight for Gargano and Murphy, who ended the series both as major stars, so sure did work out for them in the end. The Bray Wyatt Roman Reigns Inferno match. Who'd have known what would happen in real life with this fucking guy in Inferno matches? But I did it first here, and he burned his hand because I didn't want to fight him off, fucking burn him alive, because what silly company would do that? But yeah, it was the blow off there. The match got like a 23, but it happened and it was fine. Brock vs. Keith was Brock Lesnar getting the win, which would be a pivotal point in the coming months. WWE World Cup was a challenge of a set, and the winner would face Shane McMahon at the Survivor Series to crown the real best in the world. John Cena won it, of course, beating Daniel Bryan in the final. It is what it is. I believe it really ate up a lot of time on the show and caused the crowd burnout, which I then turned off after the show. Kevin Owens versus Aleister Black. Aleister Black versus... He didn't versus anyone. He came back and attacked Owens Unforgiven, setting this up for this pay-per-view. Fun match, nice match to have on your card. Was this when The Undertaker came back? I don't think so. I think The Undertaker came back on... No, it was, because Taker came back here and faced off with Aleister, and then he screwed him in the Purge Rules match the night after for the Survivor. Yeah. So I believe The Undertaker did come back here. So yeah, that's what that's memorable for. Jinder Mahal versus Elias. I need to get Jinder on the show because it was in India. Basically, the Bar and AOP was the Bar reuniting for a night to face AOP, who are in the church, to link them the same way I had to link Edge and Orton because of the Survivor Series 5v5 I was doing. So yeah. And then the Halloween 24/7 Championship Battle Royal. Bit of silly fun for Halloween night. So overall, despite what the game tried to tell me, I actually thought that show could be better, but it wasn't the drizzling shits, despite what the ratings say. Evolution was fun to do. Did really, really good compared to the India show. It's probably bang average, but coming off 9 back-to-back shows in India, it seemed to be like the greatest show of all time. Last Woman Standing, Liv versus Ruby, blow off to that feud, pretty fun, and Liv retained there to go on to Survivor Series and beyond. Sasha and Bayley, favourite match I think personally I've booked in the series. Had the whole double turn, the formation of the boss stable with Indy. It wasn't even really a stable at that point, it was just Indy, to be fair. Mickey didn't join till a lot later on. But yeah, for my money, that was my personal match of the year. Obviously, the game has an objective answer to that question. I believe... I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was Kevin Owens and Cedric on Raw. And there was another match that got an 84 that I can't remember. So, yeah. The NXT Women's title was Rhea Ripley and Tegan. Rhea retained. It is what it is. It was no build because I don't book NXT. But I wanted to get it on the show somehow. Trish and Lita beating Dakota and Raquel was a feel-good moment for Evolution to give that name value to the women's tag titles. But it was only ever intended to be a transitional run. But yeah, it happened, and they're now in the history books. The Mae Young Classic final was it Kylie Ray and Katie Lee Burchill? Yeah, Kylie Ray won that. She's in NXT, doing fine. But yeah, again, just like the NXT Women's title, had to showcase it on this pay-per-view because it made most sense to. But she's not on the main roster right now. She's still doing nothing down in NXT. AJ versus Charlotte. Charlotte needed something big to do because she's Charlotte Flair, and bringing AJ Lee back was something I wanted to do this whole time, and having her face Charlotte as like the last person she hasn't really beat, because Charlotte's beaten Trish, she's beaten all the current women, but AJ's there, and she did lose, but that was the start of her second run, really. Asuka and Io passing on the torch, nice fucking great opener, I should say. Io beat Asuka in her pay-per-view debut, and yeah, not much to say there. Ember and Nikki beating Nia and Alexa may well have been Nia's last match. I can't remember. I can't remember when I actually released her. I think she went as part of the New Year cuts, actually, so she probably did have 1 or 2 more matches. But yeah, the end was Nia for her there. Kairi won the tag title number contenders battle royal to get the shot at Survivor Series, and then Paige and Shayna happened. Shayna won, and sending Paige on a very similar trajectory to what like AJ Lee would be going on, so that's how they would unite later on down the year. But Evolution, great, I thought, was a very good show. Survivor Series. Battle Royal on the kickoff show, won by, I believe, Santos Escobar and Isaiah Swerve Scott. Or did I change my mind on that? It was between them two and Ziggler and Rude, I believe. So, yeah. Opener was the women's 5v5. Charlotte, Asuka, Sonia, Ruby, and Tony versus Bayley, Alexa, Shayna, Dakota, and Ember. There was actually a couple more stories woven into here than it looked on paper. Dakota and Bayley really subtly started in this match, which would then go on to all the way to WrestleMania. Ember, I had to make sure I didn't look too weak because I knew she was getting a title match next month. And Asuka and Charlotte were originally going to have some sort of thing at Mania, so I believe I'd put something in there with them. But yeah, that was fine for what it was. For brand versus brand, there's not really much I can do, but I do like the concept, so it's fine. Lashley versus Otis. Lashley being pinned by Otis because Apollo turned on VIP Nation was a thing, but it's fine given what's happened now and where they're both going to be going next season. It's just a nice little thing I booked, and yeah, not going to harp on it too much, just by it being a bit silly. Usos and New Day wanted just a match I knew would absolutely bang on this show, and can't go wrong with those two. And it did pretty good, actually, yeah. Seth and Corbin went on really early on the show because Seth was pulling double duty. And yeah, that was what it was. Heel versus heel. I don't really like doing them too much, but Seth was preoccupied feuding with the rest of the people that the church are feuding with. The Raw Avengers, as I called them. So it's fine. I shouldn't have that match on my thingy here for some reason. Best in the World versus Best in the World. John Cena beat Shane McMahon because, of course, he did. The Raw and SmackDown tag match was interesting because Raw had actually already won overall, so I needed to give people a reason to care about the match. So it was Pierce was going to give special rewards to the Sole Survivors, which were Roman Reigns and Keith Lee, and then they wrestled for a title shot at the next pay-per-view, which we'll get to because that's up a very important plot point heading in towards WrestleMania. And then in Boneyard match, The Undertaker got buried by Aleister Black. And yeah, that was my way to write him off, to passing on the torch to the next spooky dude. And that was the main event, but the match I didn't go over here was the Team Raw versus the Church, where Seth got pinned right away. And yeah, it was a coming out party for Buddy Murphy, basically. But he pinned Cesaro and everyone else survived. Yeah, that was a fun story I liked doing, and it really cemented more of that slow, subtle building heat on, or getting sympathy for Buddy Murphy so before he turned on Seth in the next few months. Great show, actually. I think, personally. Speaking of shows I think are very good, actually, that brings us to High Voltage. And this show is notable because all 4 of the championships on Raw actually changed hands on this show. WWE Championship to Randy Orton, which started the arc of Seth and Murphy and all that stuff, and started the Randy Orton title run, which go all the way to WrestleMania, and as you've seen now, beyond. Gargano winning the IC title thanks to Damian Priest would also, again, be an important plot point to heading into WrestleMania. New Day and Swerve and Escobar, that feud started here and lasted all the way until WrestleMania. Liv and Io beat Liv here for the title. Liv had a strong run, but Io was just more equipped to be the champion, I think. She had the better stats, despite having lower pop. And then she'd be 2 belts after that because she was already the tag team champion. John Cena and R-Truth was the real full John Cena heel turn. It had been slowly built since he came back, because he was insisting he hadn't been changed by the Fiend, but it was a subtle thing where he sort of had been. But then that was when he fully snapped and just became an absolute dickhead. John Cena and Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. Just a mid-card match between two top guys. Story was about the tag team. Joe didn't think Owens was a good captain, and they lost, and he blamed Kev and all that, and that's where that started. Charlotte and Tony, again, with Charlotte a lot of the time, it is just she needs to wrestle this person to try and establish them that they can hang on the Queen's level when I've got nothing else for her to do. That's all that was, really. Drew and Alistair, two top guys just feuding. Yeah, I can't even really remember the feud that much between Alistair and Drew, but I know it was, just standard purge stuff. And then Ricochet and Cedric, when they split up and feuded, and Dio Madden was at ringside for Cedric to help him win. And very fun mid-card match, and a very fun opener on what is overall... That wasn't even the opener was the Aussie title match, but what I thought overall was a very fun show. Christmas Chaos. I feel the same way about this show as I did about High Voltage, if not slightly less enthusiastic, because Corbin versus Ali just is less appealing than Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton. It just is, but Ali won it. All the titles on this show changed hands apart from the tag titles as well. So coming out of that weekend, only one of the 9 champions actually kept their belts. As you know, that isn't true, because I changed the Ziggler and Roode title change to SmackDown. So yeah, so this was Ziggler and Roode going in as the champions, but again, I haven't updated my Excel document, so it's fine. Ali won the title here. It was a goal to get him the Universal Championship by the end of the year. This was literally the last day of the year, so he had to. Ember Moon also had to become the champion before WrestleMania. I thought, I want Sasha to go into Mania with the belt, so I need an excuse to flip-flop it for a month. I think I did alright with that, but isn't something I would have wanted to happen. Apollo won the US title, pinning Lashley. He was only a transitional champion in the end. Originally, he was going to hold it for a lot longer, but yeah. Keith and Roman opened the show, banger. Roman Reigns won it, and then the whole who attacked Roman Reigns mystery angle happened on this show, which led to the title match next month. Gable, Vince, Bryan, really good match, fun story, and a nice way to make a new guy in Chad Gable, who'd go on to have a pretty good couple of months. Rey and Dominic versus Lucha's whatever was Dominic's debut, because they were feuding with Rey over Lucha heritage and stuff. Mid-card match is fine. Overall, I'll say decent, or... See, I think there was enough good on this show to warrant it being above. There's more good on this show than there was on these ones, for example. I'm going to put the Royal Rumble in the best already, because it just is my favourite pay-per-view I've ever done. I actually think it's the number 1 show of the year. Just because of the stuff of the Rumbles, the Karrion Kross debut, and not even just specifically the editing, but mainly the editing, but a lot of stories for WrestleMania either started or were heated up properly in the Royal Rumble. Seth and Randy Orton Part 2, yeah, you can't go wrong with that. The big Karrion Kross debut and Mustafa Ali quitting to do the message the night after. Important story arc. Io defending against Tony but losing to Candice and Ruby. And then Sasha winning a title match because Mickie James turned after Sasha was berating her and joined the Boss stable. Yeah, not much to say, just fucking sick. Go watch it if you haven't already. Fastlane. Both this show and No Way Out, because they're only 3-week builds. I like having a pay-per-view between WrestleMania and the Rumble. Definitely not 2 like they have in real life, but when you've got that pay-per-view and you've got 2 chambers to build, a lot of things do just end up being filler. I didn't want to do Swerve and Escobar against New Day again, but it made the most sense. Gargano and Ricochet, I was actually alright with. That's a nice little filler match for Johnny. Big E and Andrade, I felt like I did that to death on Raw, so I didn't really want to do that pay-per-view, but need another match, really, so that went on there. Murphy and Elias, again, Elias filled the same role here as he did against Kevin Owens at Unforgiven. Just a body for Buddy Murphy to beat because he just turned on Seth like 2 weeks before this and was a white hot babyface. The chambers though, the men's chamber set up Randy to win, go on to fight John Cena with the whole angle after that, which I liked because it was John Cena again being a dickhead and being a manipulative piece of shit. Kevin Edge was really started here, and then Drew and Sheamus also started here. Bronson Reed was the odd man out, but hey, it helped give him the rub, so I liked that he was there. EO won that chamber. I don't believe that any of the other feuds were set up in here. I don't think I had Charlotte and Liv interact that much. I still really wasn't sure what the time match was going to be at Mania at that point. I picked Sonia like the show or two after, once I told them at the start. But yeah, could have been better, personally. No Way Out. Karrion Kross and Daniel Bryan was a loose end that had to be tied up because he attacked Bryan to take him out of the Rumble when he was going to get the title shot against Ali on SmackDown. Now, he won the non-contenders for the Rumble and then he attacked Bryan, and then that's how that all came about. So he obviously had to fight Kross at some point. So I liked that. Gable and Apollo rematch. Fair. Filler, really. Profits and the Usos was originally going to be the WrestleMania match until I got the goal to put the title on Mysterios. So that became a 4-way at Mania, so I did this. Actually, this one's actually a pretty good show. To be fair, Nikki Cross and Kaylee Ray against Ruby and Candice, yeah. Fun match, fun debut for those. Same as Shotzi and Ember on the pre-show. Men's Chamber, as predictable as it would have been in real life, did well in the game. And the Brock Lesnar attack on Keith Lee set up that WrestleMania match. Roman coming in to win to get the obvious inevitable match with Karrion Kross. Sasha retaining over Bayley last. Bayley pinned Dakota. So that whole thing, that was why Dakota was pissed off there. So again, interwoven storylines. This one was actually pretty good. I'll put this in decent. And then we get to the granddaddies of them all. And I'll tell you now, they're both going straight in the best because they are the combination of everything. If I had to pick, I would say I think I preferred Night 2 because that had the running gag with The Miz and the Legends as well, which I thought was fun. And I just think the card was more stacked. The only downside I would say is that I liked the Andre Battle Royal. I thought more stories were told in that than there was in the Women's Battle Royal, because that was really just Rhea, Raquel, Shayna, and Asuka just dominating everyone. But yeah, Karrion Kross and Roman, Gargano and Priest. I've got really nothing else to really say about these matches. These are just what happened. They were the blow-off, apart from Dakota and Raquel splitting up after the match on night 1 with Dakota and Bayley. The whole Sami Zayn underdog thing, because Apollo turned heel and that, yeah. So there's a couple of important moments. Big E making me cry by leaving the New Day and all that. Whereas Night 2 was more so just match, this happened. But it did have the Owens and Edge, where Edge and Christian did the 5-second pose. Drew being crowned the franchise player, and the John Cena and Randy Orton match with that fun finish. And the EO Sonia match with the homage to Eddie Guerrero in that one. Alistair and yeah, they were both fucking sick, so they're both going in the best. So that's it. That's how I would rank these. The only one I really don't think I was that happy with was Payback. Hopefully in season 3, none will be in that bottom tier, and they'll all be in the best. So that was a nice little filler video just to do. If you want to do it yourself, it is on Tier Maker. I'll leave the link in the description. Obviously, you haven't got to go back and watch them all to... Actually, no, what am I saying? Yeah, you do. Go back and watch them all the way through. Leave likes and share them and comment and all of that stuff. And then season 3, I believe the Slammy video will be up. If it's not up already, it will be up after this. If it is already up, then the next video will be either the announcement of the new goals or Raw. But yeah, if it's not, then it will be the Slammies, then Raw, or the announcement of the goals. So the end is in sight. The wait isn't actually going to be as long as I thought it would, because yeah, I've just got to do like graphics for the draft and shit. So that's that. That was a fun little video to do. What were your favourite shows of the year? What was your least favourite show of the year? And yeah, do let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time for whatever it is. See you then.